how to handle consistent emotional unavailability in your spouse. Okay. What that takes is a lot of self-acceptance, and we each have to decide how much emotional unavailability in a spouse, in a life partner, is okay. I think there's a big difference between unavailability and cruelty. And I found in my work with highly sensitive people that sometimes they want to name cruelty or abuse or narcissism as unavailability. And that is a certain amount of unavailability, but it's like unavailability plus some maybe gross tasting spice that ruins the food. So each of us has to decide how much of that is okay for us. I was married to two different unavailable emotional people in my life. For me, I had to decide that my truth was that I could not be satisfied there. And the more that I worked to be satisfied, sort of the crazier I felt. Okay. But there are relationships that we do decide, okay, there's a certain amount of unavailability here. If we're not changing our lives and we're choosing to lean in, what we do is we work on the relationship with ourselves and with our community. To be a highly sensitive empath and have emotional unavailability in the spouse takes a lot of looking at the reality of that and grounding yourself in the reality of that. Working the 4 agreements to not take that personally, to have a lot of compassion for that person's limitations emotionally, and to have a lot of compassion, a practice of compassion with yourself, because that's really hard to be a really deep, highly sensitive person and to not be able to have that reciprocated within the relationship. So we don't want to go in a victim mode about it, but we want to go into a lot of self-compassion, a lot of self-patience, and a lot of permission, intention, and energy into connecting with other people that can be emotionally available for us. And that does not have to be in the limited way that I think a lot of us think about it or movies make it out to be. That doesn't mean that we have to have 7 best friends that are always available right when you want to call them. Right? That can mean having a yoga teacher that holds an emotionally connected class for you every Saturday morning. And maybe you commit to twice a month doing that for you so that in those moments where your spouse just drops the ball or fails or is just completely disinterested in going to a deep place or connecting emotionally, so that you then have some things in place in your life to talk to your own inner child, to be able to say, oh, that was hard. Yep, we would really like our spouse to be emotionally available right now, but he's not or she's not. Okay, remember, we're working to accept this person as they are. We're going to go to that class in a couple days. We're going to have some emotional connection there. We go to emotional connection in books. Okay. I have another reading from Mark Nepo's The Book of Awakening, one of my favorites that I bring in here often. Any reading from Mark Nepo is an emotionally deep, connected experience. We can also write to ourselves in a journal. Okay. What we can't do is beg, plead, make that emotionally unavailable person more emotionally available. If they don't have a genuine willingness to work on that and to go after that without you pushing, prodding, begging, it's not going to work. And through my years being a therapist, there have been so many people that I have to basically say, this is my own silly Nikki way of saying it, but I say, hey, no, you can't kind of tie him up, handcuff him, throw him in your trunk, and make him do this work in a therapist's office. It's not going to happen. So it's a lot of grief and letting go. And we don't just grieve that this person right there in front of us that we're sharing life with isn't great at this and doesn't feel this need for us. We grieve the ideal. Just like me in my life and my story, my mother was incredibly emotionally unavailable. And I'm no contact now. If you're new and getting to know me, that's part of my story. But I had to do a lot of acceptance and a lot of grieving of, I didn't just grieve her, I grieved the ideal mother. I grieved the mothers that I saw in movies. I grieved the mothers that I saw some of my friends all across my life have. I grieved the mother I never got to have in this lifetime. And in that grief process, we accept, okay, those are the cards I was dealt, or that's what I've signed up for if we've married or partnered. And in that grief process, we get all the way to that last stage of grief, which is acceptance. And in that acceptance, it frees us up. We're no longer in the pain and the hurt of it so deeply, though we may always have a little bit of wave of grief.